What does real faith look like? Not the kind that wavers in comfort, but the kind that keeps believing when everything falls apart? The Bible tells us, and it starts with two words that echo through history. By faith. Let me show you the secret to unshakable faith, and why your story might be the next chapter in Heaven's Hall of Faith. Hebrews 11 is known as the Faith Hall of Fame, but these aren't superheroes. They're broken people who believed anyway. By faith, Noah built an ark when there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Abraham left everything behind just because God said, "Go." Sarah believed for a child long after her body said it was too late. Moses refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing suffering with God's people over luxury in Egypt. And then, it gets even deeper. Some were tortured. Others faced jeers and flogging. They were stoned, sawed in two, put to death by the sword. And the Bible says something absolutely stunning about them. The world was not worthy of them. Faith isn't always flashy. Sometimes it means walking into the unknown. Sometimes it means waiting when everyone else moves on. Sometimes it means suffering with no explanation and still trusting God. These weren't people who saw all the promises fulfilled. In fact, verse 13 says, "All these died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off. They saw it from a distance but never let go." Why? Because their eyes weren't on this world. They were looking for a better country, a heavenly one. That's why God wasn't ashamed to be called their God. Can you imagine that? God wasn't ashamed, because they believed. So now, here's the question. If Hebrews 11 was still being written, would your name be on the list? Not because you were perfect, but because you endured. Not because you had no doubts, but because you refused to let go. Unshakable faith doesn't mean you never fall. It means you always get back up and say, "I still believe." You want to know the secret? The key to faith that lasts? It's this. Live for the promise, not the outcome. Fix your eyes on what's eternal. Because faith isn't about results. It's about relationship. So I'll ask you, are you building that kind of faith? One that keeps walking even when the road gets dark? One that trusts even when God says not yet? Because if you are, then heaven already has a place for your name. Drop a comment. Whose faith inspires you the most, and what kind of legacy do you want to leave? Let's fill this section with modern Hebrews 11 stories.